Sarah Williams pulled her cleaning cart through the quiet hallways of Meridian Technologies at 8 p.m. The lights in most offices were off, except for a few where ambitious employees still worked late. She adjusted her blue cleaning uniform, making sure her name tag was straight. Even though most people never bothered to read it, she always kept it neat and professional. The night shift wasn't where Sarah had imagined herself 5 years ago. With 2 master's degrees hanging on her wall at home, one in business administration from Stanford and another in computer science from MIT, she had dreamed of leading teams in a top tech company. But after 57 rejected job applications and 12 interviews that went nowhere, she had to face reality. Supporting her sick mother and younger sister meant taking any job she could get. As she moved through the building's 20th floor, she heard voices coming from the main conference room. Through the glass walls, she could see 5 men in expensive suits laughing around a table covered with empty pizza boxes and coffee cups. Their laptops glowed in the dimming light as they worked on what seemed to be an important project. Another mess to clean up, Sarah thought to herself, but she didn't mind. Every night spent cleaning these offices was also a night spent learning. She knew more about Meridian Technologies' operations than anyone suspected. She could recite their quarterly earnings from the papers left on desks, understand their coding challenges from sticky notes on monitors, and had memorized their business strategies from forgotten whiteboards. Tonight, as she emptied trash bins in the HR department, she found another torn-up rejection letter for a qualified minority candidate. It was the third one this week. Sarah carefully smoothed out the pieces and took a photo with her phone before disposing of them properly. She had been collecting evidence of the company's discriminatory hiring practices, but she wasn't sure yet how or when she would use it. The cleaning cart squeaked slightly as she pushed it into the CEO's corner office. James Richardson's space was always the messiest, despite being the largest and most luxurious. Sarah began her usual routine, dusting the expensive artwork, vacuuming the premium carpet, and wiping down the massive mahogany desk. As she cleaned, she noticed a new photo frame on his desk. It showed Richardson shaking hands with the mayor at a charity event. The headline in the newspaper clipping next to it read, "Meridian Technologies donates $1 million to youth education." Sarah knew the truth behind that donation. She had seen the real documents while cleaning the CFO's office last week. The company had only donated $100,000 and pocketed the rest while claiming the full tax deduction. Just another night at the office, she whispered to herself, taking mental notes as she continued her work. Her mother had always told her that education never goes to waste, and Sarah was proving that true in unexpected ways. Her business degree helped her understand the company's financial documents, while her computer science background let her make sense of their technical projects. At 10:30 p.m., Sarah reached the break room where the late-night meeting was still going on. The executives had moved from the conference room, leaving behind their mess of pizza boxes and coffee cups. As she quietly began cleaning around them, they continued their conversation as if she were invisible. "Did you see that candidate today? The one from Google?" One executive laughed. "Thought she was all that with her fancy degrees." "Yeah, but you know how it is," another replied. "She wouldn't fit our culture here." Sarah kept her head down, her hands steady as she wiped the tables. She'd heard these conversations before. They never suspected that the cleaning lady understood every word, every implication. They never imagined she could read the complex code on their screens or understand the financial reports in their trash. As midnight approached, Sarah finished her shift, changed out of her uniform in the small cleaning staff locker room, and headed to her car in the nearly empty parking garage. Looking up at the gleaming building against the night sky, she smiled slightly. She wasn't just cleaning these offices. She was gathering intelligence, building a case, and waiting for the right moment. One day, they would learn that the woman they looked down on every night was more than capable of bringing their whole house of cards tumbling down. They just hadn't realized it yet. The following week brought heavy rain to Silicon Valley, and Sarah arrived at Meridian Technologies with her umbrella dripping wet. She noticed more cars than usual in the parking lot at 8 p.m. The quarterly board meeting was scheduled for tomorrow, which meant another late night for the executives. As she pushed her cleaning cart past the main conference room, she saw CEO James Richardson leading a meeting with his executive team. Their voices were louder than usual, probably from the expensive whiskey bottles she spotted on the table. Sarah kept her head down and started cleaning nearby, knowing from experience that people said more when they thought no one important was listening. "Hey, look who's here," called out Mark Stevens, the marketing VP, his voice slightly slurred. "Our favorite cleaning lady." The other executives laughed, raising their glasses. Richardson stood up, swaying slightly. "You know what's funny? We spend millions on hiring top talent, and here she is, probably the most loyal employee we've got." More laughter filled the room. Sarah's hands tightened on her cleaning cloth, but her face remained neutral as she wiped down the glass walls. Her phone was in her pocket, its voice recorder running, a habit she developed after her first week here. "I bet she doesn't even know how to turn on a computer," joked David Chen, the technology director. "But at least she knows how to use a mop." The group roared with laughter. Sarah moved to empty their trash bins, each piece of crumpled paper potentially another piece of evidence. As she bent to pick up a fallen paper, CFO Robert Thompson nearly bumped into her. "Oh, sorry," he said with fake politeness. "Didn't see you there. You people blend into the background so well." His words caused another burst of laughter from his colleagues. Sarah simply nodded and continued working. Inside her pocket, her phone captured every word, every laugh, every discriminatory comment. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Let them underestimate you, baby. Their ignorance is your advantage." The executives moved on to discussing tomorrow's board meeting, their voices getting louder as the whiskey bottles got emptier. Sarah pretended to be busy cleaning the coffee machine nearby, her ears catching every word. "The board's getting suspicious about the diversity numbers," Thompson said, rubbing his forehead. "They're sending some diversity consultant next month." Richardson waved his hand dismissively. "Just do what we always do. Show them the cleaning staff numbers. See, we're very diverse." He pointed at Sarah, causing more drunken laughter. "Besides," Stevens added, "what are they going to do? We're making them millions. Nobody cares how we do it." Sarah moved to the other side of the room, carefully wiping down surfaces while the conversation continued. She watched as Richardson pulled out his laptop, struggling with the password in his drunken state. "Can't even remember my own password," he muttered. "It's my wife's birthday. No, my dog's name. Ah, got it." He typed it in, not realizing Sarah's perfect view of his keyboard in the glass reflection. The meeting continued late into the night, with more mockery directed at Sarah whenever she came into view. Each time, she responded with quiet politeness, playing the role they expected, the simple cleaning lady who couldn't understand their important business talk. At midnight, Sarah finished her shift and changed out of her uniform. Before leaving, she organized the photos she'd taken on her phone, images of carelessly discarded documents, screenshots of open laptops, and recordings of discriminatory comments. She had labeled everything carefully, building a digital archive that would make any investigator proud. In her car, Sarah pulled out her personal laptop, much more powerful than anything the executives used, and added tonight's recordings to her growing collection of evidence. The file was labeled Project Karma, and it was getting bigger every day. As she drove home through the rain, Sarah smiled to herself. Let them laugh. Let them mock. Let them think she was nothing more than a cleaning lady who didn't understand their world. Soon enough, they would learn that karma had a way of teaching the hardest lessons to those who needed them most. They just didn't know that Karma wore a cleaning uniform and carried a master's degree in each pocket. The next evening at Meridian Technologies started like any other, but Sarah Williams knew something was different. The tension in the air was thick after the board meeting earlier that day. As she cleaned the hallways, she noticed several executives rushing between offices, their faces worried and pale. CFO Robert Thompson's office was her first stop tonight. Usually neat and organized, it looked like a tornado had hit it. Papers were scattered everywhere, drawers left open, and his computer was still running, all very unusual for the usually careful Thompson. Sarah started her normal cleaning routine, but her trained eyes caught something odd. Under Thompson's desk lay a crumpled document that had missed the shredder bin. As she picked it up, her heart began to beat faster. Years of business education helped her recognize what she was seeing: a fake financial report. She smoothed out the paper carefully, her hands steady despite her excitement. The document showed two different sets of numbers for the company's quarterly earnings. One set matched the public reports she'd seen in the news. The other numbers, written in Thompson's messy handwriting, told a very different story. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered to herself, quickly taking photos with her phone. The real numbers showed the company was losing millions, not making them as they claimed to investors. Just then, she heard voices approaching. Sarah quickly returned the paper to where she found it and pretended to vacuum. Thompson burst in with CEO Richardson, both men looking stressed. "The board is asking too many questions," Thompson said, running his hands through his hair. "We need to move the money again." Richardson closed the door, not even noticing Sarah. "Use the overseas accounts like last time. The cleaning budget can hide another few million." Sarah's vacuum drowned out parts of their conversation, but she kept her phone recording in her pocket. She had learned long ago that the best way to be invisible was to keep cleaning while others talked. "What about the tech department's ghost employees?" Thompson asked. "The board might notice." "They never checked those details," Richardson replied. "Just keep spreading the salaries through different departments. Been working for 2 years already." Sarah's mind was racing. Ghost employees? Fake accounts? Her computer science background helped her understand. They were creating fake employee records to steal money. The cleaning budget explanation also solved the mystery she wondered about: why the cleaning department's budget was so huge when they were all paid minimum wage. The men continued talking, completely ignoring Sarah's presence. She moved around the office slowly, capturing every word while appearing to do her job. When the executives finally left, she waited 5 minutes before starting her real investigation. With quick, skilled movements, Sarah photographed every document left in plain sight. Her business degree helped her understand exactly what she was seeing: a complex fraud scheme that went far beyond just cooking the books. She moved to Thompson's computer, still logged in from his hasty exit. Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard, her computer science training guiding her as she navigated through files. Within minutes, she had found folders full of evidence: fake invoices, hidden accounts, and lists of ghost employees. Using her phone, she carefully photographed the screen, making sure to capture file names and dates. She didn't dare email anything or leave any trace of her investigation in the computer's history. Years of being underestimated had taught her to be extremely careful. As she finished cleaning the office, Sarah's mind was already forming a plan. She had discovered something huge: not just discrimination and harassment, but serious financial crimes. The kind that sent people to prison. Walking to her next cleaning spot, Sarah felt strangely calm. For months, she had gathered evidence of the company's unfair practices, hoping to expose their discrimination. Now she had stumbled onto something much bigger. It wasn't just karma anymore, it was justice. In her pocket, her phone held enough evidence to bring down the entire executive team. But Sarah knew timing was everything. Like a chess player, she needed to plan her moves carefully. The pawns had given her access to the kings and queens, and soon she would show them all what a cleaning lady with 2 master's degrees could really do. For the next 2 weeks, Sarah Williams came to work earlier than usual. She would sit in her old Toyota in the parking lot, watching the sunset while planning her next moves. The evidence of fraud she had discovered needed to be handled carefully. One wrong step could ruin everything. Tonight, she noticed something different in the parking lot. A sleek black Tesla with a board member parking permit had appeared. Sarah recognized it as belonging to Angela Chen, the newest board member who had joined 3 months ago. Unlike the other executives, Ms. Chen had always nodded hello to the cleaning staff. Sarah started her cleaning rounds as usual, but tonight she had a plan. She knew the executive floor would be empty because of a charity event downtown. This gave her the perfect chance to dig deeper into the fraud she had discovered. She began in the HR department, carefully checking files while appearing to dust. Her phone's camera clicked quietly as she photographed documents showing the ghost employees. Each fake name had a real bank account attached to it, but the money trail led nowhere. "Just like I thought," Sarah muttered to herself, her business training helping her connect the dots. The company was paying salaries to over 50 employees who didn't exist. Moving to the IT department, Sarah used her computer science knowledge to spot irregularities in the system logs displayed on forgotten screens. The complex coding that hid the fraud might fool others, but to her trained eye, the patterns were clear. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. Sarah quickly resumed mopping the floor as Angela Chen walked in, looking for something in her office. "Oh, hello," Ms. Chen said kindly. Working late again? Yes, ma'am, Sarah replied with a polite smile. Just finishing up here. Miss Chen paused, looking at Sarah more closely. You know, I always see you when I work late. How long have you been with the company? 2 years now, ma'am. And you're always so thorough with your work, Miss Chen commented. I've noticed that. Sarah felt Ms. Chen's intelligent eyes studying her. For a moment, she wondered if the board member could see past her cleaning uniform to the degrees hanging on her wall at home. After Ms. Chen left, Sarah continued gathering evidence. She had created a special encrypted folder on her personal laptop labeled Project Justice, organizing everything she found by date and department. The fraud was bigger than she at first thought. Beyond the ghost employees, she discovered fake contracts with companies that didn't exist, millions of dollars disappearing into offshore accounts, and tax documents that had been carefully altered. In the CEO's office, Sarah found a paper shredder still warm from recent use. She carefully collected the strips, planning to piece them together at home. Her sister always said Sarah was like a puzzle master. Now those skills would help expose the truth. As midnight approached, Sarah took her final photos for the night. She had organized all her evidence into 3 categories: the discrimination she had faced and witnessed, the financial fraud she had uncovered, and the paper trail of fake documents that proved it all. But Sarah knew she needed more than just evidence. She needed the right person to take action. That's when she remembered Ms. Chen's reputation. Before joining Meridian's board, she had helped expose corruption at another tech company. Maybe she would be the ally Sarah needed. In the quiet of the empty office, Sarah began drafting an anonymous email to Ms. Chen. She would send it through a secure server, revealing just enough information to spark an investigation without exposing herself too soon. As she cleaned the last office for the night, Sarah smiled at her reflection in the window. The executives had never wondered why their cleaning lady worked so carefully, stayed so late, or paid such close attention to detail. They never imagined that every night, while they slept safely in their expensive homes, she was building a case that would bring their whole world crashing down. Tomorrow, she would send the email to Ms. Chen. Then the real game would begin. A game where the woman they mocked as just a cleaning lady would finally show her true power. The morning after sending her anonymous email to Angela Chen, Sarah could hardly focus at her day job as a data entry clerk. She kept checking her secure email account, waiting for a response. By evening, when she arrived at Meridian Technologies for her cleaning shift, she still hadn't heard anything. But something was different tonight. The executive floor had an unusual energy. Through the glass walls, Sarah could see people moving quickly between offices, their faces serious and worried. In the conference room, she spotted Angela Chen talking intensely with 2 other board members. Sarah started her usual cleaning routine, beginning with the lobby. Her phone was in her pocket, recording everything as usual. As she pushed her cart past the conference room, she could hear raised voices. These numbers don't make sense, Ms. Chen was saying. How can we have 58 employees that nobody has ever seen? Perhaps they're remote workers, another board member suggested. In the cleaning department budget? Ms. Chen asked sharply. Something isn't right here. Sarah's heart beat faster. Ms. Chen had found the clues she pointed out in her anonymous email. She moved closer, pretending to clean the glass walls. Just then, CDO Richardson burst into the conference room, his face red with anger. What's this emergency meeting about? We had no notice. Sit down, James, Ms. Chen said calmly. We have some questions about the company finances. Sarah watched through the glass as Richardson's face went pale. She kept cleaning, moving slowly to catch every word. Everything is perfectly in order, Richardson insisted. Our quarterly reports. Our beautiful fiction, Ms. Chen interrupted. I've spent the last 12 hours reviewing the evidence sent to me. Want to explain why we're paying salaries to cleaning staff who don't exist. Sarah moved to empty the trash bins, keeping her head down but her ears open. The conversation grew more heated as Ms. Chen revealed more discrepancies she had found. Suddenly, Sarah's cart bumped into someone. She looked up to find Ms. Chen standing there. The meeting had ended while Sarah was focused on her work. I'm so sorry, ma'am, Sarah said quietly. Ms. Chen studied her face carefully. You're here every night, aren't you? Sarah, right? Sarah nodded, surprised that Ms. Chen knew her name. Would you mind coming to my office for a moment? Ms. Chen asked. I have some questions about the cleaning department. Sarah followed Ms. Chen, her heart pounding. In the office, Ms. Chen closed the door and turned to face her. You know, Ms. Chen said with a slight smile, whoever sent me that email knows this company incredibly well. They understood not just the financial fraud, but the technical details of how it was hidden in the computer systems. Sarah remained silent, her face neutral. They also included recordings, Ms. Chen continued. Interesting conversations that could only have been captured by someone who was in the room, but completely ignored by the executives. Sarah's hands tightened on her cleaning cart handle. Most fascinating of all, Ms. Chen said, picking up a paper from her desk, was this resume I found in the rejected applications file. Sarah Williams, MBA from Stanford, Master's in Computer Science from MIT, over 50 rejected applications to tech companies. Sarah met Ms. Chen's eyes steadily. Yes, that's my resume. Ms. Chen's smile widened. I thought so. You've been gathering evidence for months, haven't you? While they laughed and mocked the cleaning lady, you were building a case that could send them all to prison. They never thought I could understand what they were doing, Sarah replied quietly. Their biggest mistake was thinking a cleaning uniform meant I was stupid. Well, Ms. Chen said, sitting down at her desk, I think it's time we show them exactly how wrong they were. Are you ready to help me take them down? For the first time in 2 years, Sarah stood straight and tall, no longer playing the role of the invisible cleaning lady. Ms. Chen, she said with a confident smile, I've been ready for months. The game was about to change, and Sarah Williams was finally ready to make her move from pawn to queen. Over the next week, Sarah continued her cleaning duties as usual, but everything else had changed. During the day, she now worked secretly with Angela Chen in a small office away from the main building. The board had given Ms. Chen permission to run a full investigation, and Sarah was her hidden weapon. Look at this, Sarah said, pointing to her laptop screen. She had created a detailed map showing how the money moved through different accounts. They created fake cleaning staff profiles, but the money actually went to these offshore accounts. Ms. Chen leaned closer, impressed. Your business degree is really showing now. How did you figure this out? I matched the employee ID numbers with the bank accounts, Sarah explained. The numbers didn't follow the company's usual pattern. Plus, I've worked here 2 years and never seen any of these people. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was time for her evening cleaning shift. She quickly changed into her uniform and headed to the executive floor, where panic was spreading. CEO Richardson was shouting in his office. Find out who's leaking information to the board. Check everyone's emails. Sarah hid her smile as she emptied his trash bin. They would never find anything in the emails. She had been too careful for that. In the IT department, she overheard the technology director trying to delete files. We need to wipe everything, he was telling his team. The board is asking questions about the ghost employees. But Sarah had already saved copies of everything. While pretending to clean computer screens, she had photographed all the important files weeks ago. Later that night, back in Ms. Chen's office, Sarah showed her more evidence. They're trying to hide everything, she said. But I have proof of every transaction for the past 2 years. Ms. Chen nodded, looking through the documents. The other board members want to meet you tomorrow. Are you ready to stop being the cleaning lady? Sarah took a deep breath. Almost. There's one more thing we need. Proof that Richardson personally approved these fake accounts. How can we get that? He's destroying everything. Sarah smiled. Tonight's the monthly system backup. The IT team always stays late to run it. And guess who has access to every room during the backup? The next evening, Sarah pushed her cleaning cart into the server room. The IT team barely glanced at her as she cleaned around the humming machines. They never noticed her phone, carefully hidden, capturing everything on their screens. Got it, she told Ms. Chen later, showing her the photos. Richardson's electronic signature on every fake account approval. He was so busy deleting files from his computer, he forgot about the backup server. Ms. Chen studied the evidence with growing excitement. This is it. This is everything we need. The board meets tomorrow morning. Are you ready to show them who you really are? Sarah looked down at her cleaning uniform. For 2 years, it had been her disguise, her shield, her way of gathering evidence while staying invisible. Tomorrow, She would wear a business suit instead. The executives still think I'm just a cleaning lady who can't read big words, Sarah said with a slight smile. Won't they be surprised when I present the evidence myself? They never saw you coming, Miss Chen agreed. That was their biggest mistake. That night, as Sarah finished her final cleaning shift, she took one last look around the executive floor. The offices where they had laughed at her, the conference room where they had mocked her, the desks where they had plotted their crimes, thinking she was too stupid to understand. Tomorrow, everything would change. The cleaning lady they had underestimated would step into the boardroom not with a mop, but with evidence of their crimes. The woman they thought couldn't read would show them complex financial documents that proved their guilt. Sarah touched her name tag one last time. She wouldn't need it anymore. Tomorrow, they would finally learn her real name and discover that karma sometimes comes dressed in a cleaning uniform, carrying 2 master's degrees and enough evidence to destroy them all. The morning of the board meeting arrived with bright sunshine streaming through Meridian Technologies windows. Sarah Williams stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting her navy blue business suit. After 2 years of wearing a cleaning uniform, the suit felt strange but powerful. At 9:00 a.m., she walked into the building through the main entrance instead of the service door. The security guard who had seen her every night did a double take. Sarah smiled, showing him her new badge, no longer marked cleaning staff, but board consultant. The executive floor was buzzing with activity. Through the glass walls, she could see CEO Richardson and his team gathering in the main conference room. They looked nervous, shuffling papers and whispering to each other. Ready? Angela Chen appeared beside her, carrying a thick folder of evidence. Sarah nodded, gripping her laptop bag. Inside was every piece of evidence she had gathered over 2 years: photos, recordings, financial documents, and server backups. At 9:30 a.m., the board members began filing into the conference room. Sarah waited outside with Ms. Chen, her heart pounding, but her face calm. Through the glass, she saw Richardson's face grow pale as he noticed her standing there in business attire. What is she doing here? She heard him ask loudly. That's the cleaning lady. Ms. Chen smiled. Shall we go in? They entered the conference room together. The executives' faces showed a mix of confusion and growing fear as Sarah confidently took a seat at the table. What is the meaning of this? Richardson demanded, standing up. Why is our cleaning lady sitting at this table? The board chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Richardson, please sit down. Ms. Williams is here at our request. Ms. Williams. CFO Thompson looked confused. Her name tag says Sarah. He said it like it was a joke. Sarah opened her laptop, connecting it to the room's large screen. Yes, Sarah Williams. MBA from Stanford, Master's in Computer Science from MIT. The same Sarah Williams whose job applications your company rejected 57 times because she wouldn't fit the culture. The room fell silent. Richardson's face had turned from red to white. For 2 years, Sarah continued, her voice steady, I cleaned your offices while you laughed at me. You called me stupid. You mocked my intelligence. You never thought I could understand your important business talks. She clicked her laptop, and financial documents appeared on the screen. But I understood everything, including how you created fake employee records to steal millions of dollars. That's ridiculous. Richardson shouted. She's lying. Really? Sarah clicked again, and audio recordings filled the room, their own voices mocking her, then discussing their fraud schemes. You never thought the cleaning lady was recording everything, did you? Thompson jumped up. You can't record us without permission. That's illegal. Actually, Ms. Chen interrupted. In this state, recording conversations in a public workplace is perfectly legal. Stealing millions through fake employee accounts, however, is not. Sarah continued presenting her evidence. She showed them the fake accounts, the ghost employees, the altered financial records. With each click, the executives' faces grew paler. Impossible. Richardson whispered. You're just a cleaning lady. Sarah smiled. That's exactly why your plan failed. You thought a cleaning uniform meant I was stupid. You never imagined I could understand your coding, your financial schemes, your technical discussions. Your arrogance made you careless. The board members were rapidly taking notes, their faces serious. The chairman looked at Richardson and his team with disgust. Ms. Williams, he said, Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Your investigation has been thorough and professional. He turned to the executives. As for you gentlemen, please remain here. The FBI is on their way. Sarah watched as Richardson slumped in his chair, defeated. The man who had laughed at her, mocked her, and rejected her job applications now couldn't even look her in the eye. "Oh, and Mr. Richardson," Sarah said, standing up. "Remember last month when you said I probably didn't know how to turn on a computer? I just used one to end your career." She walked out of the conference room, leaving behind the stunned executives and their shattered world of privilege and fraud. The cleaning lady had just cleaned house in a way they never expected. 3 months had passed since the dramatic board meeting that changed everything at Meridian Technologies. Sarah Williams sat in her new office, the same corner office that once belonged to James Richardson. The view of Silicon Valley stretched out before her, but she wasn't looking at it. Instead, she was reading the morning's headlines. Former Meridian tech executives plead guilty to fraud charges. The article detailed how Richardson and his team had accepted plea deals, facing significant prison time and heavy fines. Sarah placed the newspaper aside and smiled at the framed cleaning uniform hanging on her wall, a reminder of where her journey had started. As interim CEO, Sarah had spent the past 3 months transforming the company. Her first action had been to hire back all the qualified candidates who had been rejected due to discrimination. The tech industry had been shocked to discover that a former cleaning lady was now running a major corporation, but Sarah's degrees and experience spoke for themselves. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. Angela Chen entered, carrying a stack of papers. "The board just approved all your proposals," Ms. Chen announced with a smile, including the education fund for maintenance and cleaning staff. Sarah beamed. The fund would provide scholarships and training opportunities for service workers who wanted to advance their careers. She had named it the Never Underestimate program. "How are the new diversity hiring practices working out?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. She had designed them herself. "Incredibly well," Ms. Chen replied. "Our workforce diversity has increased by 60% in just 3 months, and productivity is up by 45%. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. In the parking lot below, she could see employees arriving for work. Unlike before, they now represented every background imaginable. The security guard who had watched her clean for 2 years was now enrolled in the company's computer training program. Her phone buzzed with a message. The FBI wanted to interview her again about the evidence she had gathered. Her recordings and photographs had proven crucial in building the case against Richardson and his team. "Oh, and Sarah," Ms. Chen added, "the cleaning staff wanted me to give you this." She handed Sarah a card. Inside, the cleaning team had written thank you notes. Many mentioned how the company's new respect for all employees, regardless of position, had changed their lives. Sarah touched her old name tag, which she kept in her desk drawer. "You know, some days I still can't believe how things turned out." "Really?" Ms. Chen laughed. "I can. You were smart enough to get 2 master's degrees, patient enough to gather evidence for 2 years, and brave enough to face down a room full of corrupt executives. The only unbelievable thing is that they never saw your potential." A young woman appeared at the door, Maria, one of the new hires from the maintenance staff. She was starting the company's technology training program next week. "Ms. Williams," Maria said shyly, "I wanted to thank you. I never thought someone like me could have a chance at a tech career." Sarah walked over and squeezed her shoulder. "Never let anyone tell you what you can't do, Maria. The same people who look down on you today might end up working for you tomorrow." After Maria left, Sarah returned to her desk. On it sat the company's new mission statement. "Talent has no uniform." Below it was a photo from her first day as CEO. She had worn her cleaning uniform under her business suit, removing the suit jacket during her acceptance speech to reveal the uniform underneath. The message had been clear: no honest work was beneath dignity. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across her office as Sarah prepared for her next meeting. She had replaced the executive team's expensive whiskey bottles with a water cooler, their luxury artwork with employee achievement photos. The conference room where they had once mocked her was now used for employee training sessions. "Ready for the board meeting?" Ms. Chen asked. Sarah stood up, straightening her jacket. "Always ready." She picked up her presentation about the company's record-breaking quarter. Let's show them how successful a company can be when it respects every employee, from the CEO to the cleaning staff. As they walked to the conference room, employees smiled and waved. Sarah Williams, the cleaning lady who became CEO, had not just cleaned up the company's corruption, she had transformed its soul. And that, she knew, was the sweetest karma of all.